All right, we're hot.
Not you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Haun. I want to thank you for being here today. And I've got a question for you. Vaccinations, why or why not? Interesting question, huh? Well, there's rubella, diphtheria, smallpox, polio, whooping cough, and the list goes on of the major diseases that are childhood diseases that are cured by vaccines. According to the Pro-Con.org website, their article, Vaccines, Pros and Cons, there are no current U.S. federal laws that mandate vaccination of our kids. None. Now, the states have kind of wised up, and all the states in the U.S. require vaccination of kids before they enter schools for certain diseases. But most states offer the option to opt out of the vaccinations for either medical reasons, religious reasons, and here recently they started giving people philosophical exemptions. When we talk about nasty diseases, we talk about things like smallpox. Nasty deal that kills kids, kills a dove, doesn't make a difference who they are. It just, bad things causes bad things. Edward Jenner, the English physician and scientist in 1801, came up with the first smallpox vaccine. And 200 years later, the disease has been basically eradicated. The Center for Disease Control uses their website to state that the world is a highly mobile society, and that millions of people travel from countries where childhood diseases are common, and they go into other countries on a daily basis. Anybody hear about the porous borders that the United States has? This is a picture in Brownsville of all the kids that came across from third world countries into Texas. So you have these kids that are not vaccinated coming from countries where these diseases are quite common. And what do they bring with them when they come here besides their clothes and their backpacks? They bring these diseases. Recently there was an outbreak in California at a Disneyland amusement park. The CDC research showed that 45% of California cases were not vaccinated. And then another 43% had an unknown or undocumented vaccine status. In other words, they didn't know whether they'd been vaccinated or not. And prior to this point in U.S. history, measles had been eradicated. Anybody in here ever have measles besides me? It hurt. It was nasty. It looks like this. And the more you touch it and itch it, the worse it hurts. So, the measles, the fact that these diseases have gone down, and we scratch our heads and look at what's this guy talking about, is proof that vaccination of children actually works. So if we don't have the disease, the vaccination process is working. Anybody in here ever heard of these diseases like diphtheria, Haemophilus influenza type B, hepatitis A, Hep B, influenza, measles, meningococcal, mumps, pertussis, the old whooping cough, pneumococcal disease, polio, potavirus, which is extreme diarrhea, rubella, tetanus, which is lockjaw, and varicella, which is chickenpox, what we looked at earlier. You may have heard of a random case, but the Mayo Clinic states that the fact that we don't have these diseases is proof that it continues to work. Opponents claim that vaccinations are not needed because the kid's immune system can cope with most of these infections. I have a problem with somebody that just says most. And that when these kids actually get these diseases, they expose themselves to other dangers. They also say that there's a tie between vaccinations and ADHD and autism. But these folks claim that vaccinations aren't necessary and the immune body will take care of the infections on its own. The Mayo Clinic's website debunks this with proof that enough, or even though children survive, they have severe side effects from the disease, such as pneumonia, paralysis, deafness, and brain damage. I don't know about you, but those are kind of drastic consequences for my kid just because I didn't want to vaccinate him. And the report also claimed the link between vaccination and autism was falsified when it was made, and it has been retracted. So proponents of vaccinating our kids cite the fact that many deadly diseases are prevented by vaccinations, and this saves millions of kids' lives every year. Texas Governor Rick Perry on his website articulated the need to control the borders of Texas to protect citizens of Texas and U.S. from terror attacks. His thought of the mass influx of kids from Mexico and other third world countries was almost just a side note. These kids, the majority of whom come from unvaccinated countries where these deadly diseases are commonplace, are arriving here to infect our kids in our neighborhoods. This in turn causes the outbreaks as we witnessed in California.
Okay,
so in conclusion, vaccinations are able to prevent and protect our kids today. The choice to not vaccinate our kids, to me, is endangering our kids by exposing them to the once non-existent dangers and deadly diseases that are being brought back into this country. Consequences of allowing a child to catch these diseases is gambling with things like paralysis, deafness, and brain damage. Just remember, everyone likes children and we need to protect them from dangers of life. This includes the exposure to deadly childhood diseases that can be prevented, many of which are at one time eradicated. Please tell your kids or your children, have them back.